function in the window to keep track of requests from the public to speak. With that said, I've basically live on Zoom at this point in my other capacities, and there have been some concerns about security issues. And since the meetings that we're talking about are the public meetings, I'm a little concerned about that. I don't know if they've been locked down already. I've been on a Zoom public forum that got Zoom bombed, and it was not cute.
Well, that's why we did, like, for example, the Chelsea land use as a webinar, because when you're in the webinar function, the only people who can actually project something or speak or participate have to be let in by the administrator, Jesse, in most cases. So that protects us in that. I mean, this meeting, we're not in webinar mode. If someone wants to Zoom bomb us, it's going to happen. But, you know, and Jeffrey, please don't do that. But, you know, we're for something like this, as opposed to a full public meeting, for a full board, we'll do a webinar mode to, you know, to maintain that level of control again.
Yes.
To
All right.
add on to that, there's a couple other things that we're doing security wise on every meeting. The webinar function definitely creates that kind of a bit of a firewall in that scenario. We're not, as a policy in our committee meetings, we're not sharing. You have the ability to share your screen. We've done that with, you know, we had that at Clue. We had a presentation. The screen, I shared my screen with everybody. Everybody saw that presentation. You have the ability to give that power to someone else in this meeting. We're not going to be doing that. So everything that is going to be presented, whether it be an agency or from as private applicant, needs to send us the presentation. The presentation will be then shared by, you know, either a staff member or we'll make a person on the committee responsible for that, but it won't be just given out to the public, and because that's one of the ways that people get the Zoom bombing happens. Right. The other thing that we'll be doing, I think, in advance of larger meetings, didn't do it with this one, and I didn't do it with Clue because I wanted to see what it was like. But we will be. You can make folks register, which is another. You know, it doesn't impede anybody from access. But it does create another kind of a little bit of a line where people can't just jump online at the last second and get in onto your meetings. And the one thing, going back to what Zoom has, that GoToMeetings, at least regular GoToMeetings, doesn't have, is that natural control of just shutting everybody off mute wise and being able to, you know, say, okay, we're taking a second.
Jean-Daniel.
See, Alan has actually had a hand up for a while.
Okay, I saw JD. Go ahead, Alan, then JD, then back to Dale.
Hi, everybody. So ACES went on Zoom. I thought it went very well. Engen and I shared different parts of the meeting, and I think it went very smoothly. And Jesse did the organizing, the background. I attended the transportation, and I thought Dale did a good job in terms of managing it, because it just seemed like, you know, if you have a lot of people on GoTo, you really have to stay on top of everybody, and it kind of like takes one of the co-chairs, if that's what they're doing, out of the picture, to become like more of a manager of a site. And I was at Clue on webinar, and I thought that went very well. So I would, you know, not really depend on GoTo in the future. Thank you.
All right, Jean-Daniel.
Yeah, two questions. One, we're on YouTube now. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay,
This gets, one of the other things Zoom has is a feature to live stream to YouTube. So we could be out there on YouTube. All of these meetings are then being broadcast on YouTube for someone who doesn't want to log into Zoom. And all of our meetings are archived on YouTube. So for example, you missed Paul's debut as co-chair of Chelsea Land Use. You can go back and watch and see the fantastic job that he and Betty did.
Great. So my question is to Dale. Dale, you mentioned, if you have a large number of people attending the meeting from the public, how do you recognize them? Is that easier with GoToMeeting or with Zoom?
I personally, first of all, what I meant to add before was that I was very thankful to have Janine kind of facilitating. She did a great job. She made sure that everything that was shared was needed to be shared. But to your question, JD, I do think Zoom has a feature where you can virtually raise your hand in the participants window, and the organizer will see it as an orderly list. So they can, you can call on people in the order that they raise their hands. If a participant is not able to do that, they can otherwise make it known that they want to participate. Whereas in GoTo, I just had to call out an order and say, I'm going to call on this person, and this person next. So it was I think it's a little easier to facilitate that kind of public interaction on Zoom.
Okay, thanks, Dale.
Paul, you wanted to weigh in there?
Yeah, and first of all, thank you for the compliments on that meeting. And I think 10 of the 16 of us were at that meeting, so many of you were a witness to what it was like. And JD, the way that the webinar and panelists work is that the people attending from the public, their list of names appears and they can raise their hand. And as a host, I can see those hands being raised in the blue tabs. And so we walked through that. And then we also had a question and answer segment where people could input their questions. So the only visible faces were the panelists, so the committee members and the applicant. But then as somebody wanted to ask a question, we could kind of move them into that category of a visible person. And it was really helpful to control. We had close to 70 people of the public attend that meeting. And if we had it in this format where everybody's image is on the screen, you wouldn't have seen anybody. It would have been too many faces. Right. And the control of the public actually was relatively easy. Thank God for Jesse for managing a lot of that. Thank God for Lowell controlling the chat room. Thank God for Betty. Like it took a lot of
Maria helped with the chat room.
Maria helped with the chat room. I mean, it took a lot of effort, but part of it was because it was the first time and we were kind of navigating it. But secondly, there were a lot of people. We had 30 comments contributed at the public hearing. And I would really advocate for the Zoom webinar program based on that experience.
Yeah, the other thing is what Yoni said, Yoni posted in the chat that we can use a waiting room. Having a separate delineation between presenters and attendees basically puts all the attendees in a waiting room. So they can't say anything there. Right. First of all, Jessica, keep your eyes on the road. Stop looking at us. Jeffrey, Jeffrey, and then Christine, I saw, and then back to Yoni.
I would also just add, if there's ever a meeting where you know your motions are going to be very straightforward, they can be cut and dry and fabricated before, the polling feature on Zoom is also fantastic. So that way you don't have to do a roll call. Though, of course, if it's a ULURP action, you have to do a roll call. But if you can, set your questions up for motions in advance, which we can't always do. I understand that because some motions have additions, items, public consideration, all that kind of stuff. But I found that feature to be extremely useful as well.
All right. I was going to go back to Christine. I think you were next, but no. Okay. Yoni, you were next, but I've got one question. Who is dialing in from the Maryland phone number, the 410 phone number?
That might be Carl.
Is it?
Whoever it is, you can unmute yourself with *6.
That could be Carl's number. I just don't recognize, without having the number, I don't recognize it. I know he was on Congressman Nadler's call earlier, but okay. So Yoni, you had one more thing on this topic, then I want to move on.
Ironically, right on this topic, I think the most challenging thing Frank and I had was the 10 or 15 people who called in with numbers and we had no clue who they were. My understanding is in Zoom is that you can actually raise your hand to speak on a touch-tone phone. So hopefully we can test that out.
Okay.
And yeah, all right. So I think we are all.
Maria, you helped me with one meeting. I don't remember what it was. I thought it was that meeting. I'm sorry. I gave Maria credit that she didn't deserve, and she's being honest about it.
Just take the credit.
She's being honest about it. So,
just to go over, can I?
Go ahead, Jesse.
So we're going to go to Zoom with all of our meetings. Okay. If you should discuss with your staff members how you want to do it. If like we did a regular Zoom meeting like this one for ACES, I think it went fine. if we want to do it with a webinar function that separates, it gives the general public a general link line, and that's fine. And we give to the committee members or panelists. Just so you understand, there's a difference there. If you click on if you're a committee member and you just click on the general link, the general public line, link line, you'll come in as an attendee. It'll require the organizer to move you into that sort of raised level of a panelist. It's fine. It just takes some time at the beginning to sort of organize that. So what we like to do is you get sent an individual email to join as a panelist, which means you'll come in as that panelist. You'll have all of the sort of additional kind of you'll be seen on the screen, that kind of thing. And you'll be able to rename yourself and all of that. And so that's just the only two things I'd like to keep in mind on that.
Okay. I'd like to move on if we can. I think everyone knows we're moving to Zoom, and we'll go from there. Jesse, can you share the full board agenda?
I can. Give me 1 second.
Okay. Just want to make sure that we're going over this. Jesse and I have discussed this. I have spoken to the other community board chairs about how they are handling voting in particular. And what seems to have been the most effective, because it needs to be recorded, is to do a single roll call vote, to bundle everything, to do a single roll call vote, and then have someone, if someone is not agreeing with item number 13, for example, when they can say vote no on 13, yes on everything else. So I'd like to take a look at the agenda with everyone, and just if there's anything on your committee that you think is going to be problematic, that we may need to call out separately or is going to take extra time, if you can identify that. So let's start with Frank and Yoni. Are either of those problematic?
I don't think so. I think they can be bundled.
Okay, Christine and Dale. The ratification on the open streets letters, from what I have heard, is maybe an issue.
That may be an issue.
Yep. Nothing on the 29th Street loading zone, though. That seemed just a question of how many spots they wanted.
Right.
Chelsea land use, Betty, and that's going to be an issue, isn't it, Paul?
Right.
We should probably make sure we highlight that one.
I would think so.
Yeah.
We didn't have unanimous on the committees.
Right. And then the exec letters are what we all voted on in March that have all gone out that just need to be ratified. I don't think there's anything crazy there. We ratified them all last month without an issue. And again, they're just for ratification. All right, so that looks like it's in good order. That's what I'm going to plan to do. We'll do the single roll call and people can vote them out unless anyone has any kind of issue with that. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
So Lil, just to be clear, so on the items, you basically have the ballot sheet, and when the end of the meeting comes along, we'll say, okay, I vote yes on all but item 6, and I vote no on item 6, and that's how it's recorded?
Yes.
Thanks.
Now, because we are doing that, I am not going to entertain motions to cut off debate, because there's going to be no calling of the question because we're voting all at the end. I am not going to entertain closure motions. You're all going to just be at my mercy. When I get bored with the discussion and people start repeating themselves, I'm going to move on to the next item. That's the easiest way to make it work. So make sure you keep your comments interesting or I'll get bored. Jesse, can we share the committee schedule next, please?
Yeah, let me see if I can do that directly from here. Okay, give me 1 second.
Since we don't have pink sheets to pass around, we're doing it this way.
No, I'm disappointed it's not pink.
Well, it might be, who knows? This next one may be green.
Give me 1 moment.
While we're waiting on that, is there anyone who needs anything that the board can help them out with, aside from getting Joe about 6 more pairs of hands to do his day job? Is there anything the board can help out with? Anyone in need of anything?
That would be very helpful.
All right, anyone wants to go to work for Joe, he's hiring. I don't think he pays very much.
Just checking, do you guys see the committee schedule for May, or is it still the full board agenda?
Still full board.
Okay, this is just one of these unique things about Zoom that I need to.
All right, just close it out and start
Yeah.
over again, right?
Yeah, you need to unshare.
Yeah.
Fine.
There we go. Let's run down the list again. Alan, anything on ACES that you want to change, question, or need us to know about?
No, we're actually waiting for a meeting between ACES and Transit to be set up with DOT on this news rack program so we can have discussions at the committee. And we'll probably be adding something on education once we get it set up. So there'll be another item on that agenda, and hopefully we can have this discussion on the news rack program.
All right, I'm going to give you one other thing to potentially add for your agenda. Community Board 7 sent a letter to the electeds to maintain the summer youth employment program, which is on the chopping block when the mayor redid his budget. And there are a couple of other boards that are weighing in on this that want to see that program maintained. And I didn't know whether or not you guys wanted to take it up, or if it belonged under education, if it belonged under Housing, Health, and Human Services, but I wanted to raise that for someone to take under consideration.
Right. Well, we had DOE at our last meeting, and that issue of summer school was raised. Unfortunately, the folks who were there from DOE, that wasn't their purview, but that will be taken up. It's already been somewhat bantered about between the members within the education subgroup.
All right, but not summer school, but the summer youth employment program, which is hiring.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. That's also,
Right, I thought that's what you had taken up, yeah.
Yeah, Josephine has put out some literature on that, and we'll be taking that up specifically at the meeting.
All right, I can share the CB7 letter.
Sure.
Everyone's gotten so lonely. We've now been having, aside from borough board, the community board chairs have been getting together without Gail's office just because everyone's so lonely.
That's nice.
So I've got that letter I can share with you.
Excuse me. According to the New York Times.
Who was that? That sounded like Betty.
And Marty. The other day, the mayor announced.
Betty, you're breaking up, if that is indeed you.
It's me. My connection seems to be going in and out here and there, but anyway, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Anyway, the article said that the mayor canceled the youth employment program for the summer officially, and that all summer camps were closed. All public summer camps were closed this summer. That's what
Right.
it
No,
said.
but the boards are trying to push them to rescind that cancellation. So if Alan's committee can take that up, maybe they'll find something out. Maybe they won't.
This is Marty.
Go ahead, Marty.
Do we need a conversation about how the community board deals with the mayor and the funds that he obviously has no funds. The state has no funds. The federal government hasn't been paying anything. So I'm hearing you talk about keeping a youth program open for the summer. And of course, I want to keep the youth program open for the summer. I also want to keep the compost recycling going. So there are conflicting tears on available money. And I frankly don't know how to deal with that.
Well, that's an interesting point. I think part of what we could do is when we can add that, the composting program to the WPE agenda for May. And then when we get to May exec and we have all of these letters that have come out of the committees, we can try and prioritize what we think as a board is most important, the same way we vote on the statement of district needs. You know, I understand everyone's got their priorities, but I'm not sure how to juggle that except to treat it the same way we treat all of our budget discussions. Yoni, go ahead.
Just echo Marty, the abandonment of the composting thing seems foolish, but yeah, I agree. It might be a whole budget response, sort of coordinated response to all the mayor's cuts, what our board thinks is important.
Okay, then what, maybe, is my driver, yeah, my driver's still on
Yeah.
there.
Hi, actually,
Go ahead.
Can you hear me? It's
Yes.
Jessica. I think I agree that I think if we could do a response to the overall cuts, but I would also say that given what we know about unemployment, youth unemployment specifically in our district, which is that it's higher than one would imagine and higher than most other districts, I think there's a unique role for our community board to play, whereas like composting affects everyone and across the city as a whole. And we should have a comment on that, but I think that there are issues that really require us to lean into because of the fact that they uniquely impact our district. And I think some summer youth employment or finding alternatives to appropriate summer youth employment, if not the actual program, is one of them.
All right, then what I'm going to do, Jesse, is I'm going to ask to the May committee schedule, we add a budget committee meeting to come up with a response to the mayor's new proposed executive budget. And we can tell the man where we think he's wrong and what should be changed.
I just would hope that, I agree with what I just heard. I would hope that part of that response would at least include a lame, I know it's a lame, but make it as powerful as you can, statement about the disastrous underfunding of New York State by the federal government, which leads to all these cuts.
We can definitely take a look at that.
It ain't going nowhere. I understand that, but we
Yeah.
need to say it.
Understood, but I don't think this is the forum to be having that debate right now. We will take it up as a budget task force, and I'm going to impose on everyone for an extra meeting who's on that task force, but since Jessica's driving, she can't really object. Business licensing and permits, Frank and Yoni. Is there anything on there that's going to be controversial?
Well, first of all, this, more than the other committees, this agenda often changes by as much as 50% because the applicants don't get their materials in.
Understood.
What might be controversial is
753.
yeah. Well, no, I was going to say the new hotel, 305 West 58th, West 48th, which is a new hotel. I haven't seen the application.
Oh,
The press materials say they're going to want a rooftop bar, and I expect it'll be one they want to be a big party space.
I think Christine's right as well. The 753 9th Avenue could also be an issue with additional DJs. So to echo what Frank said, until we see the applications in the final agenda, it's hard to know.
Okay.
I think we need to be prepared similar to what the last time we had Chipotle on our agenda, that we might have the labor issue arise as well. I haven't heard anything. Nellie hasn't heard anything yet. I did reach out to Brad Hoyleman's office, who had been, I think, the lead on speaking with the union that had come to our committee a number of times. So I'm just, but we just highlighting that.
mm.
You know, one thing we've also had, and maybe we can reiterate with Nellie, with the hotels and the corporate owners, is to actually make sure a decision maker is in the meeting, because sometimes the representative doesn't have any leverage or power.
All right. Jesse, you need anything else from the chairs? on that?
No. Yeah, I mean, as Frank said, these are all tentative because these are all the 30-day notices we received, but we have not received full stipulation forms yet for a number of these. So this could change, and because of the financial climate, it could change dramatically. So.
Understood. All right. JD.
Yes, the first two items, the MCV4 presentation update on Hell's Kitchen, and the second item, the Douglaston to present on 705 10th Avenue. These were punted from last month, the month before.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, Jesse may know, Joe, weigh in if you know more than I do, that I don't think Douglaston is prepared to present. We were going to talk about the slaughterhouse. Joe was going to make a presentation. I think we were going to meet with Corey Johnson before that to have a discussion. That hasn't been set up yet. So I'm not sure if we should do these two items or punt them to June. The third item, the Planning Fellow project. The Planning Fellow has an exam in May, and then she's going back to India in June. I've emailed David Skolnick to see if he wants to present in May or wait till June when we'll have more of an audience. He's getting in touch with the planning fellow. So we're going back and forth. We don't know yet. I think it's better to wait till June so we'd have more of an audience for David's presentation.
All right, on the first two items, JD, if you will recall, and I know Joe will recall, we had this on the agenda for March,
right?
And at the last minute, the speaker started making phone calls himself because he didn't want us to publicly air this, where we were going to disagree with him. We agreed to hold it over to April on the basis that we would meet with Corey before then.
Right.
April got kicked because of the virus.
Right.
And so now it's been on the May schedule and we still have not met with Corey.
Right.
If we leave this on the agenda and it is published as part of the agenda, I expect he's going to come running back to us and saying, wait, we still haven't spoken.
Yes, that's right.
He has made some off the cuff remarks to me about how we have not been helpful to him. Which is not our job, and I don't really care, but he made that comment to me at one point. So I expect that we really do need to meet with his office before the committee takes this up. Now, the question is, do we want to try and force the issue and do this by Zoom? And, or do we want to, and leave this on the agenda and see if he reaches out, or have Jesse reach out to try and schedule that meeting? Or do we want to punt this yet another month to June and see if we can actually get an in-person meeting at some point? I personally think that sitting down in person would be more productive. The battle lines have been drawn. They know where we stand. We know that they know where we stand. We know where they stand. There did appear to be some desire to talk to us, things that Corey did say to me, and I think he said to Joe when we canceled the March meeting. So I do think a conversation will be productive, but how do you guys want to play it?
I agree with you, Lowell. If we do have this for the May meeting, it's going to be very, very contentious, and will probably put a bad taste to any future meeting we have with Corey.
All right, then let's.
I think we should wait for Corey too.
I'm sorry, Joe, you broke up a little bit.
I think we should wait for Corey too, and he's very occupied with the budget right now, so probably not the best time to schedule a meeting,
Right, but if he's preoccupied with the budget, that means we're going to not going to get a meeting until July. So the question is, are we still willing to wait on these? They're not going forward without, a consensus. So it's just a question of how much longer these sit, and to the extent that we are trying to tie these to Slaughterhouse, it leaves Slaughterhouse on the back burner as well.
Why don't we do just a quick check-in with Eric, maybe?
Okay.
Because I think these are really on the back burner in total right now. That's my sense.
Yeah.
Agreed.
All right. So I will double check with Eric. I've been delivering.
The longer these sit on the back burner, if I can just
go ahead, Jeffrey. Go ahead.
Longer these sit on the back burner, I think the less leverage we maintain. But my question about the DEP site, are we losing anything with regards to the RFP or timing? There's nothing technical that we're getting in the way of. It's more just process and planning, right?
I'm sorry, Jeffrey. The DEP site, there is some controversy about that still going on, unresolved.
Oh, to answer your question, Jeffrey, no, we're not. This was a pre-ULURP certification informational presentation that was set up by HPD and Douglaston, and so we're not missing out on any comment period, if that was your question.
Wanted to make sure just on the two sites that we're not. If we prolong it to wait for in person, who knows when that's going to be, frankly.
All right. Yeah.
True.
Who is that, Christine, I heard?
Christine, yeah. I think the only risk we have is at a point as we are pushing out and the city is trying to cut costs, that they may cut those projects.
Okay.
They seem to be very invested in affordable housing right now, I have to tell you honestly. It's kind of crazy.
Okay. I mean, I don't think they're going to walk away from affordable housing. At least I don't think this mayor is going to.
Also,
It's a question of how we bring this up, and I'm hearing that we should wait until we talk to Corey. I will reach out to Eric. I'm going to see Eric tomorrow. We are delivering pantry boxes to Fulton and Elliott Chelsea again tomorrow. So I will raise it with Eric when I've got him alone in my car and threaten to push him out at high speed. You see, Christine, having a car in the city is useful.
Excuse me, this is being recorded. I just want to remind everyone.
What, did I just threaten to throw Eric out of a moving vehicle? Okay, I'll run the risk there. But yeah, I'll raise it with Eric. We'll see where he wants to, what he thinks about this, and in all likelihood, we're going to take these off of the Chiclew agenda. All right, Jeffrey and Marty, WPE. Is the trust ready to present on 97?
Yes, they confirmed with Janine that they're going to come and provide that progress update. It's mostly to do with the relocation for the historic ship location, I believe, for 97. I'm not sure if it's a design specific update. And then they wanted to talk about Clinton Cove, so that was at their request.
Okay.
And the other two items we
All
look
right, well,
forward to hearing about.
The suspension, yes. The composting suspension we've already discussed. Tow pound. I can't believe the NYPD is coming to present.
No, this is just, if I didn't request that did Marty, did we make the ask that they come to specifically present? I don't think so. I think this is just to tell the.
I was surprised to see it on the agenda.
No,
yeah.
Making the presentation.
They were supposed to present back in March. When after the last meeting we had, they were supposed to present with what they came back when we read them the Riot Act, and then they postponed because they weren't ready, and then we got hit with the virus. So I'm actually surprised to see this on the agenda. As Jeffrey well knows, the working group has been suspended, and I have not heard word one about anything about this since the beginning of March. So
this was probably held over from that period. So I have high doubts Janine has heard anything from NYPD as well. I haven't heard anything from City Hall. They usually send City Hall over before they send NYPD. So if we want to keep this on as purely a committee discussion and to have a conversation to update everybody as to what we know, we can do so, or if we want to take it off and hold off until a later date. But I don't believe this is a NYPD City Hall presentation.
Jeffrey, what do you want to do?
I mean, whether it's on there or not, I think in old new business, we can just say, just FYI, things have largely been put on pause, just like the entire state.
Governor Cuomo thanks you for using his word.
Marty, what do you think? Should we leave it on there as a formality?
I just keeping it on, of course, keeps our attention to it. Even if we just say we kept it on to keep your attention on it, which is probably all we're going to do.
Yeah, my concern with leaving it is that we're going to generate phone calls from the administration or from Gabby or whoever saying, what is going on here? What are you talking about? And that accomplishes what you want. It keeps the focus on it. I just, we're going to get those calls asking about it.
But what's the problem with getting
I'm not saying there is a problem. I'm just saying this is what's going to happen if we do it.
I'm inclined to keep it, and I'm also inclined that we can finish this conversation offline.
Yes. Okay, that's fine. Okay.
I
Chelsea
will say if we do keep it, we just clarify and call it a committee discussion.
Yeah.
How we normally do that.
Right. Not as an update because we're not getting updated by anyone. Paul and Betty, Chelsea Land Use. Jesse, can you scroll down a little bit?
Yes, I can. And let me take this first one, Paul and Betty, unless you've been contacted directly by these folks. Just because it's been, I'm waiting for a lot of information from them. they're supposed to have a hearing date in May, and they're supposed to get us this information on the application. It's supposed to be a very simple, small application of punching two, I think, AC holder, air conditioning holes into the wall, and that's it. But I still haven't received anything, so there's not much to talk about. But I've told them in clear language that if they cannot get us the information in time, then they need to talk to LPC about postponing their hearing in May.
Okay. Betty, I don't even know if Betty's on, because I know she was having issues.
I think Betty's off.
Bouncing in and out. I mean, both of these are, both of them sound like pretty simple processes.
Anyone hear me?
Yeah,
You're
Betty,
still breaking up a little bit, Betty, but go ahead.
Hey, Betty, try turning off your video and just doing voice.
I'm having trouble. What do we?
Turn off the video and just do audio. Just you stop video on the bottom of the panel,
Why?
because that takes up bandwidth. And if you're having
Okay.
bandwidth issues, if you're just on audio, it's easier.
Okay, I just went off of video. Can
Okay,
you hear
now
me better?
I can hear you clearly now. Go ahead.
Oh, what are we talking about? The agenda items?
The agenda items: 468 West 23rd facade, and
Yeah, we
the
don't know. We don't know about that except for what Jesse just said. And this Flatiron one is going to take about 5 minutes, and it's this tiny little part of our district, and we're going to defer to. Yeah.
all right. Well, then, depending upon what happens with the LPC application, I mean, is the bid thing time sensitive? Does it have to be heard, or can we carry it? I mean, I'm not trying to cancel your meeting, but to have everyone convene for a 5-minute discussion on something that just affects us because it's on one side of 6th Avenue.
Well, I think that what will come out of that, out of the committee meeting will be a motion to refer any future activity to Community Board 5. So by delaying it, we're really doing it to learn about the bid, and then we're kind of doing them a favor, and we'll make that motion to get adopted by the full board later, so they don't have to come back to us as they begin their technical process.
Okay, then it's worth holding the meeting.
I mean, if we were all having to travel and do something in this time, but to log on to Zoom for a half an hour, I don't think it's worth it, in my opinion.
Okay.
Get it done. Because I'm also afraid, by the way, that we keep pushing things off, that we're going to have a backlog of stuff once we get back to physical meetings, and I don't want to have a big long agenda for other future things.
Okay, fair enough.
And what?
Now, Betty, we
Odd
lost.
addition?
Betty, we lost you again. Sorry, we lost you again for a second. Go ahead.
No, I didn't quite catch what Jesse said about the 23rd Street, something about air conditioners.
Yeah, my understanding is their very brief Betty, their very brief description to me was that it is a very simple facade change, that it's something about AC, putting in 2 ACs into basically holes or sleeves into the facade. Still waiting for their presentation documents and their narrative. So once I get it, obviously I'll forward it on to you.
Okay.
Betty,
while you can hear me, I'm having a lot of trouble tonight with Zoom. It cuts me off a lot.
Jesse, can you give?
Yeah, no, I
Christine
saw that. Let me see if I can get it.
Thank you, Christine.
Yeah.
All right. While we're doing that, if we need to circle back to Betty, Christine and Dale, you want to take the agenda?
DOT, we have punted this one again already, and the updates on 14th Street Transit Project, I think it's a good time to take it since there is nobody in the street. And then the other one is just to inform everybody on the project that we have been undertaking informally and see if anybody has an issue. And then we'll take the news rack and then regroup with ACES when we are finished with the two committees. So I think it's a simple meeting, but it's good to keep it on.
Okay.
Agreed.
Maria and
Oh,
Joe?
and we may, by
Oh,
the way,
sorry.
we may also have a discussion. I didn't talk with Dale about that, but we may have a discussion about the cuts that the DOT, the mayor has done to DOT, where there is a lot of Vision Zero stuff which has been cut off.
Okay.
Can we make sure that's listed on the agenda, Christine?
Okay.
And that it's not an old new business, or do you think that it should just come up?
No,
I mean,
I think it's a good idea. I think we should have an item number 4, which says, budget cuts.
Because it wasn't even based on the budget. It was his PEG. It was coming out of this,
right.
The current budget we're operating in, and then we don't even know what the projection is going to be for the next cycle. But
and then also the fact that the plan task force that he has proposed, none of them cover transportation. And it seems that, MTA and buses and all those things are going to be pretty big issues because, and so I think that we need to have a letter about that.
Okay. Yoni?
Yeah, I don't know if this is transportation or BLP. I don't think it's this month, but it might be over the summer. There's all this talk about things opening up and restaurants taking over public street space. There's just something for us all to consider.
Wow.
Whether the community board is involved in that permitting process or not, but we should be flagging, and it may come up in a faster method for us to comment than the normal committee structure. So
I think it should be maybe a BLP. We have a letter on that requesting something, presentation on the process.
Well, we can schedule that. I mean, I thought that we're jumping the gun there a little bit. I don't think anyone's going to be prepared to make a presentation. We can ask for that for the June meeting.
No, what I'm saying is we should raise the issue. Yoni makes a very good point. And we should raise the issue that we must be part of the process when they open up that concept.
I think this, yeah,
that sounds like an administrative letter.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be an administrative letter. So right now, basically anything that involves street closures, is through the street activity permit office, in which, we review these, we have a number of street closures for, block parties and other nonprofit organizations. We would probably want them to run everything through that in that similar fashion, and you would get to review it the same way ACES does, but maybe it goes to LP or transportation or something along those lines.
Yeah, I think we can send an administrative letter just letting whatever agency know that we expect to be part of the process if that's going to happen, to DOT or
and it's my understanding this is likely to come out of SAPO,
yes.
that they are having a big play in a lot of what might happen with plaza sidewalk space as it relates to businesses being able to open and provide for physical distancing.
All right, then you're talking about a letter. It should just be an administrative letter from the board, and because we're talking about ACES, BLP, and transportation all having an interest in this down the line.
Yeah.
Who should write that letter?
Jesse.
Oh, fun. I shouldn't have asked the question.
Let's do this. Does someone have the time to draft that letter just telling the administration we expect to be part of the process?
Yeah,
Thank you.
I can do a draft and
yeah, if you could do a draft, Christine.
Right, and circulate with Yoni. I don't know, Yoni, if you have any further information.
Christine, please circulate it to Alan for ACES, and Jeffrey, in his day job, seems to have some insight into this too.
Yeah, I don't have any insight, but happy to help review and edit.
Someone have the time to draft that letter just telling the administration we expect to be part of the process.
Yeah, I can do a draft and
yeah, if you could do a draft.
Wow, we're hearing our meeting back in real time.
Yeah, someone has a double call on. Might be Betty.
Christine, please circulate it to Alan for ACES.
Take my phone off. And I'll hang up.
Yeah, hang up the Zoom, Betty. Is that really what I sound like?
This is weird.
Jesse, can you? Do we think that's Betty?
Yeah, hold on. Let me mute her.
Do a full
Stop
mute, maybe.
recording.
There we go.
All right. I didn't realize that's what I sounded like.
No, you don't.
All right. So Christine,
Okay.
do a draft. Please send it to Alan, Jeffrey, and Yoni. All right. Housing, Health, and Human Services, Maria and Joe, on your agenda items.
Jesse, can you
Yes.
please check in to
I
see if the 45th Street people want to come in?
So I can give you an update on some of this, right? So the 45th Street people are able to come in. We've been playing it kind of very clearly saying that, you know, there's a lot of things in flux. We're not sure what we're holding every month. So we're just getting people sort of semi-prepped. The residents can make themselves available for a call. They really want HPD and DOB there. I can probably get DOB. I will tell you, I'm going to have a hard time getting HPD there. We also need the owners, who made it very clear that they would like to be there as well. So we're still waiting on the owners to confirm. So we've got a lot of, you know, things. But yes, at least the residents can be there. And this is something we postponed. I mean, as you know, Joe, you know, even before COVID, this is about 3 to 4 months old at this point.
So before we start this, we should get from HPD a set of the approved plans. Otherwise, we don't know what we're working with.
Okay.
If we don't have those in hand, we're going to have a hard time refereeing.
Okay.
And
then 52nd Street shelter.
How
That's
the hell do we
Maria.
do that, guys? How the hell do we do that in a Zoom meeting?
Well, that's just
I think
that's a
we can
committee
get it
update item. So
Yeah,
But is
No, but
are the
careful-
anti people going to show up and make a big
course.
scene out of that?
Yes.
Of course.
probably.
So just
It's better on Zoom.
I will say Care for the Homeless has held their own, you know, community advisory committees on Zoom. I think Maria was on that call with me. And so I think it actually, tell me if I'm wrong, Maria, I think it went, and Dolores was on that call actually too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was. I think that it will work.
I think.
So.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it'll go well. There's only one person who gets a little. Hey Google, stop. Sorry. There's only one person who gets a little, you know, out of control, but he can be easily.
A little.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, but if you say something to him, it'll be fine. It's just an update. So they opened, you know, a couple of months ago in the fall or the winter. I can't remember exactly when, but it's just an update. I think, you know.
I would suggest not opening it for discussion. I would suggest not opening it for discussion. You can give your update based upon the Care for the Homeless meetings that you've attended and what's been going on, but I would suggest not opening that up and giving Mr. Sobel a forum.
And I wonder if it should be a webinar, not a, you know, the type of panel that we're in. So those who are clicking the link are just seeing the committee members, not the whole audience.
Is this
Yeah,
executive committee meeting open to the public right now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, then let's not be singling out anyone, please.
Oh,
I'm fine with it. He publicly disrespected our district manager. He is allowed to do that to elected officials all he wants. His treatment of our district manager was totally inappropriate. So I am fine.
And it's been
with
ongoing. It's been ongoing.
So
I
can
sent an email to the Block Association yesterday, making it clear that if anyone comes after our district manager again, they're going to have real problems.
Well, there was a post just last night about Jesse not giving any sympathy for somebody who was stabbed. That's
correct. Same person.
Yes.
What? Wait. Could you fill in the blanks here? What happened?
Can we hold this meeting offline?
Oh, okay.
Wait,
discussing something that I don't know. I hear that Jesse was attacked.
No, not physically.
No.
Not physically.
Online.
So are we going to put this thing on the agenda or not?
Hang on, stop. Everyone stop. Jesse, go ahead.
So this is not I'm sorry, and to be clear, this is not a committee discussion update. This is Care for the Homeless. We had asked Care for the Homeless originally to come to the committee. So this is what that would be, just to be clarifying. I do agree with Lowell's or whoever suggested it, that it should be a webinar.
Yes.
And,
Do it as a webinar, and I wouldn't open it up to, I wouldn't open that up to discussion. I would take the update from Care for the Homeless at face value, and if we have issues we need to discuss with them, there are multiple ways to do that. I would not make that part of the committee discussion.
Just call it a presentation.
Presentation.
Okay.
Joe Maria, you okay with that?
I'm concerned that's going to hold us open to saying that we don't want to have public discussion about it.
I agree. I think you just do it and have the public discussion, and you just control it. And I think you'll get through it. You'll get through it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Care for the Homeless did it with themselves, with everybody there, and we got done. So.
Okay. I know we said we're going to take, I don't want to give anyone a forum for attacking anyone. And
So
I appreciate all of the support that everybody's sent me. So.
And just my question is, do you think, Jesse or Joe, that we can have all these items? I assume we can, but I'm curious what your thoughts are. Do you think we can have all the items, or do we need to push anything over to June?
Yeah, I think it's a lot at the one meeting, right?
I think if I agree, I think if we get everything together for West 45th Street, which is going to be a significant, very kind of complex. We're talking about a cure that was done, wasn't done, is being followed. Everybody has a different story on it. If we have that together, I think with the Care for the Homeless and the Project Change, which I think is actually the silver lining of the whole committee agenda, which will be, this is our short-term contract we hired per JD's suggestion of doing a needs assessment of the community. I think that will get lost, and it's unfortunate. So I think maybe either waiting to see if 45th Street actually comes to fruition, and then and if it doesn't, and if that gets held over till June, then just doing Care for the Homeless and Project Change, or just deciding Project Change can move to June.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But what it does is it just the whole idea for the Project Change presentation was to present at housing and then present at the full board, because this was a board contract that we had hired. Right. So I would just don't want to, it's not something I don't want to lose it. It is actually really effective.
I have another question. Can we also just, I guess,
you can push Care for the Homeless. There's no time.
Right. There's no time constraints on it.
On Care for the Homeless.
That's true. So either we can push that over to June, or if we move that to item 1 and try to make that and limit the discussion we have on that, so that it's not 45 minutes.
You, me, and Jesse to figure out strategy, how to manage the whole process.
Okay.
I'm more worried about 45th Street, because that's going to be a big long.
Right. Unless we have the right documents, we can't really figure out how to arbitrate this matter.
Okay.
Okay.
Also, that Stardom Hall letter is already written, so that can go.
That'll
That can
be
be discussed. Easy to do.
Yep.
Yeah. Laura?
yes.
So I think the District 4 needs assessment, as the budget is getting cut right and left, it would be a good document to have ready to educate our, what we are asking the mayor to do for the budget and for the cuts.
Mm-hmm.
One other point. These folks were supposed to actually present at this upcoming full board. So, if we wanted to do something different and have them present sooner, like next week, if JD, Joe, Maria, and Jessica are open to that, then we could try to do that.
You mean for a full board?
Yeah. Usually it would go through the committee first, is what I'm saying, and that's what our idea was. But if there was
I would be open to them presenting for May. Full board.
Jesse?
Yeah.
I think Christine raises an excellent point. The draft is already written and pretty much vetted by Jessica and Maria and myself.
Yeah.
So it certainly can inform the budget with before it goes through the process. Just in case, just throwing that out. But Christine raises a good point.
I mean, if everybody's, I don't know if her availability anymore because we sort of pushed her off till May for the committee and then the June full board. But if we want to do that, then if everybody's okay with that, then I'm fine with going back to her and seeing if she could actually present. I mean, it was in her book to come to the May full board. So if that's
Jessica, are you on the call?
Yeah, I'm here. I agree. I think we should at least see if she's available. If she's not, we'll reassess, but I think it's worth giving it a shot.
Okay. Joe
that takes it off of your agenda for May and makes it a little bit easier either way.
Okay. Yes. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
There we go. All right. Thank you all for your patience as we went through the agenda. I know,
Excuse me, Lowell.
Yes.
Look, can I ask a question on trans?
Go ahead, Alan.
There's a CCBA meeting tomorrow. Would you like me to say anything about this curb extension since it involves 2 streets in Chelsea? Or just tell them to come into the meeting?
Tell them to come to the meeting.
All right. Is there information somewhere on the curb extension project?
Yeah, I'll send you what I have.
Okay, please. All right, thank you.
All right. Again, I thank everyone for their patience going through that. If it wasn't your committee, it may not have been of interest to you, but we needed to get through that one way or another. As a reminder, the next item on the agenda, we are hosting a forum tomorrow on housing protection in the age of COVID. We have presentations from 2 city agencies, a state agency, and every elected who represents part of this district, with the exception of an assembly member who only has a couple of blocks in the southern part of the district. Corey, Gail, Helen, Brad, and Robert, and Dick and Linda are all presenting. We are doing it in conjunction with HCC. Jesse, where are we in terms of registrations?
We are nearing 175 RSVPs.
So we are looking forward to this being something significant. A lot of there have been a lot of forums on small business. There's been nothing about housing protection. So we've carved out this space for ourselves. And I just want you all to know how hard Jesse has worked to pull this all together. It was, I said, I think we should do something. He suggested housing, and he's pulled the whole thing together. So round of applause for Jesse as usual. Thank you, sir.
Please use your blue hands. Just use the blue hands. No, I'm joking.
Also, I'm very grateful it's happening. I did hear that some people had a hard time registering with the link. So I don't know
Really?
if you got any of that feedback or if it needs to go out again.
I
I was able to register, but some people.
Sure. I can blast it out again. I haven't heard anything, but I can blast it out again. So.
Okay, or if you're happy with registration, it was just what I heard. No pressure either way.
Well, that means people are talking about it, so that's good.
Jesse, you're managing it?
No, you mean like moderating the actual meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, no, Lowell and John Furlong from HCC are going to be moderating it. I'll be managing the back of house, Zoom muting, moving people around kind of thing. Maria is going
That's what Maria was doing.
Right. Maria is going to be helping us with the chat function because people are going to definitely be using the chat function when we tell them not to use it and put it into the Q&A. I actually had a question for you, Joe. We have, it's up to you, obviously, we can talk offline, but, we have a panel of a lot of elected officials with a lot of ideas, and then we have 3 agencies. And I definitely have heard a couple rumblings from folks about saying, well, what about an actual property owner? What about a landlord? And so, I certainly wasn't going to go reaching out to Rebney, but Right. So I wasn't sure if you had if you had plans to attend or not, or be interested in sitting on the panel or not, but just an idea.
I really like to attend, but I have such minimal bandwidth for anything right now.
Understandable.
Between food and emergencies every day, you know.
Yeah. No, I hear you. I just want to.
Yoni, you go ahead.
I think the leadership of HK 5051, some of them are landlords of their buildings.
Yeah, they actually are the ones that
Suggested.
From them reached out to me, and I said, well, I'll ask around, and I was like, if you have any ideas, let me know.
What kind of landlord are you looking for? I'm
Actually,
serious. I mean, do you want TF Cornerstone, or like do you want a big developer, or
no?
Right,
I don't know. Like that's the thing. I'm not really clear what I'm looking for. I'm just throwing it out there that is something that people have, voiced at least, and that's actually interesting that Yoni brought up HK because they're the ones who brought it up. So it's like I would love to, if they had a suggestion, that'd be great.
One of them owns the whole building, so he should just be on it.
We can ask that if we want.
I think the real problem is anyone who's on something like this from a landlord end is just going to get attacked by
That's the other thing. I don't want to
That's
be. I don't want to pick someone like Related or like something like that because it just turns into a very kind
Jesse, how about Pam Wolf?
Pam would not be a good person to respond in something like this and attack.
Okay.
Just saying.
We can take it offline. If anybody has any ideas, they can send them to me and we can figure it out. If not, I think we have a very strong panel. And I think we have a lot of actually, hopefully, really good stuff that's going to be presented. The mayor, unbeknownst to me, the mayor has started a office to protect tenants. So their director will be speaking, which is new information. So, and HCR actually just released a lot of new guidelines and protocols. So hopefully there'll be some actual resources for people to get access to. And
I'm basically just playing master of ceremonies and moving things along. That's why we have John from HCC to actually moderate difficult stuff. He'll be handling the questions. I am stealing Betty and Paul's intro on how Zoom works to kick us off. So no fear, just Joe, no fear about me saying something really stupid about housing.
Don't worry about that. Lowell, I think our biggest concern is people's biggest concern is going to be for those people who are unemployed, what happens, right? There is just no program or initiative to deal with that. And the majority of owners are not like Clinton Housing talking about deferrals and abatements and figuring out a way to do agreements. That's not going to happen. So there's a lot of just general fear. I mean, I put out a letter to all of our folks that said, you will not lose your affordable housing. Like that alone just made people comfortable. But that's not going to happen.
Jesse, it's now time for your little speech about good ideas coming out of this.
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Well, yeah, I mean, I think we discussed that. We had a prep meeting with all the agencies and the electeds. And I think at the end of the day, we acknowledge that, right, this is going to be about resources and getting people some answers and some information. And we're going to have a pretty thorough resource page. We created a 2-page resource page that we'll send out so everybody can walk away with a piece of paper, which was beaten into me from Gail Brewer days. So everybody has to walk away with a piece of paper. But that we did agree that what the other goal of this is to walk away with what still needs to be figured out, and from all perspectives. And it can't just be beating up on landlords, and it can't just be telling everybody it's going to be okay, and that the electeds and the agencies need to walk away with sort of a set an action items of saying these are the issues that need to be really continue to be figured out, and we expect our leaders to figure it out. And that's part of I think that's always part of it. And I always say that that's my favorite part of these, is that you walk away with actually, how do we solve this, and then we start working on the problem. And so hopefully that's what we do.
Okay.
Christina.
I saw Jeffrey, then JD, then Christine.
Is there a time limit for elected officials and panelists speaking and stuff like that? Okay.
5 minutes.
Yeah.
5 minutes per elected office that they have been instructed they have to split and coordinate and not repeat each other, because I will cut them off. I'm looking
great.
forward
And
to that
then
immensely.
Have we thought about like definitions like deferral and forbearance and who's going to provide what that means? Because people and what, you know, what the definition of the 90-day no eviction allowing is. And I don't know that an elected official's office is going to want to be responsible for providing those definitions. So is John at HCC willing to lay out definitions? Because I think that's going to be really important to explain what the difference between deferral or forbearance or what 90 days without eviction means, and that on, you know, the 91st day.
The agenda calls for John to lay the groundwork. That way we will follow up with him and make sure that he's going to cover that as part of his introduction.
I'll mention it
But
to Leslie as well.
Yeah, he's he's first up on the agenda.
And I apologize. I realized I didn't send the agenda out with the exact information today, and I'll send that out to all of the execs so you guys all are aware of what the agenda will be. But yeah, John will be doing that, and I think also honestly the mayor's office will be very helpful in that. And I think we just heard literally 2 hours ago from HCR that they are sending both the director of intergovernment relations and actually an attorney. So. I believe she's an attorney, actually. So they'll be having some people to be able to answer those questions as well.
JD?
I didn't have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you did. Christine?
Yes, will there be a representative from the state? Because so much of the rent issues are state directed. So, and Cuomo has the task force to restart the government, etc. So that would be maybe a good idea.
So there will be, right, so HCR is a state agency, so there'll be those two reps from the state agencies, and then there'll be Robert Jackson, Brad Hoylman, Linda, and Dick there as well. I don't have anybody from the governor's office, but
I think HCR, as long as they're well prepared, if you could talk to them in advance, Jesse, to make sure they don't go into jargon land.
Yes.
So it's
yes.
Yeah, we heard from them. They finally confirmed today, but we can follow up with them tomorrow on that. But
Sure.
you know, in terms, Christine, in answer to you, they are the reps from the executive branch of the state government.
Good.
Anyone else on that? Okay, so you are all invited, and you know the numbers are going to be big, so you don't want to miss it. District office report, Jesse. We're up to you.
Jesse has moved in his PO box.
So yeah, so very quickly, I just wanted to, so the office space move, we're in limbo. We're basically not being required to vacate our current location due to the restrictions of COVID. And once those are lifted, the licensing agreement for our new space will commence. So everybody's on sort of in a holding pattern. I wanted to hope to have a little bit more of an update for you on that, but I've been trading emails and calls with our friends at DCAS. But we do have a space. We are moving into 33rd Street, and we'll be in there whenever people can do business to move people in and out of buildings. And once that's allowed, we can go ahead.
Okay. And the short-term contracts?
Yeah, that'll be very quick. So, I mean, most of them actually, so we've sort of talked about a lot of them already. Just in terms of finances as well. So the Housing Conservation Coordinator's contract is on hold, basically. They've done a portion of the work. They'll invoice us for that, and we'll sort of continue to work with them once we're, sort of, standard tenant organizing, door knocking is sort of allowed and safe. Change Impact is, like we said, was presenting that report is completed, and the sort of the working group that had been working on that from the board's perspective all have seen the draft and the final, and or have sort of I believe approved it, and so they'll be doing a presentation. We're going to look for them to do the presentation at the full board upcoming, and we'll send the report out to everybody. And then the Sam Schwartz Consulting has been completed. If I'm wrong, Christine, tell me if I'm wrong, but it has been completed, and preliminary submission has been sent to DOT just because we want to make sure it's in the pipeline and we don't lose any traction on it, especially with everything in such flux with the budget. And we have heard back from the Manhattan Borough office, at least, and they received it, and they are looking and they're reviewing it in a preliminary fashion. And that will be on the agenda for, like we said, at Trans in May. Christine, you and Dale, or you yourself will be doing that presentation. Is that correct?
Yeah, we can do that. It's not very complicated. It's, and people know how those things look, so that it's a familiar thing now.
Right. So that's where we are. I think, not knowing everything, we are getting a cut in our current budget, a peg in our current budget for due to the COVID, the impact of COVID, and we're going to have that probably again in the FY21, and even more, probably doubled what it is now, what the current cut for this FY20 budget is.
And the council stipend will probably go away.
I would assume the council stipend will go away. So I think this might be the end of our chances. So I think we used our money very, very wisely and very well.
How's the new truck driving, Jesse?
I'm going to say I was just bitter that I didn't get my car, but that's fine.
All right, let's see if we can wrap this up. There were two new business items on the agenda. One was the Summer Youth Employment Program that I wanted to raise, that I've raised already. That's now going to committee. There is an item on here, status of 2020 elections. I'm not sure what that one is, Jesse.
That one thing, I think Bert wants to had his hand raised about something, but Marty had raised this.
I will come back to Bert in a second.
Marty had raised this as an item to discuss.
Marty.
You're on mute, Marty.
Oh,
there you go, Marty.
I always push the mute button under next to my
here it is.
other than the one at the lower left-hand corner. I thought, well, we have that is Katja and I have been wondering about the 2020 elections and what role the community board has, if anything, in the virtual election that it's likely to be. That is the election from home or absentee ballots. I know that's not our role. That's the Department of Elections, but I just thought it was something worthwhile putting on this table.
Well, I think when the governor mails out the ballots for the primary, we can include in our blast reminding people to vote, but I think that's the extent of what we can do. Paul?
Yeah, sorry. Just today there was a Democratic election commissioners meeting, and what they did is they eliminated the presidential primary for June, so there won't be a primary, and only at places where there is a contested primary. For example, I think there's someone running against Dick, there's someone running against Jerry, someone running against Carolyn Maloney. We'll have a primary on June 23rd. And what the governor has agreed to do is not mail out ballots to everybody, but mail out absentee ballot applications to every registered voter. So you'll have to fill out the absentee ballot application, and then the ballot will be mailed to you in early June when the ballots are actually finalized.
All right, then Dick's challenger, I can tell you, is no longer on the ballot.
Right. So, but with Jerry, I think Jerry is.
Jerry has an opponent, Carolyn has an opponent, and Brad has an opponent.
So we'll still have a June 23rd primary here in New York City. But they're promoting absentee ballot application. Use the absentees as much as possible, and maybe that's something we as a board can do. It's nonpartisan. Just fill in the application, fill it in, mail it in, and vote by home.
Right.
We can promote that.
We can promote that. We can do that in our blasts. We can do that as part of our full board meeting. We can do it as a reminder. But I don't think we can do more than that without crossing the lines.
Are we not allowed to encourage voter access, as much ability to vote as possible? Make sure that, I don't know, just if we want a technical letter on the record to the governor about the November election, should it be about making sure,
If it's about the November election, let's see how June goes. Joe, did you have your hand up?
Yes, they did. Just a question, because Clinton Housing hosts a polling place. So Paul, could you get back to me about what preparations we have to do for in-person voting?
Yeah, as of now, early voting sites are still being determined. all the June 23rd sites, as of today, are still the same sites as previously, unless they made some minor changes. So Clinton Housing may have some minor modification, but I don't think it's due to COVID. I think it might have to do with other issues.
You know, I'm saying on the COVID part of it, because we need to know how to prepare for that, for the polling place.
Yeah, let's you and I talk offline about that.
Okay, thank you.
Great, happy to do it.
Anyone else on this issue?
Mike Noble has his hand up.
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I just want what's that?
No, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I wanted to let you guys know, you can call the Board of Elections, as I did a couple of days ago, and ask for an application for the absentee ballot. It came within 2 days, so I got mine and my son's, and it's real easy. Just give me your name and address, and that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, name, address, and date of birth. Yeah.
Right.
It's also very easy to get online.
Mr. Lazarin.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I see no reason why we can't handle this the way we did the census. We put it out there, we explain the process. It's not political about that. Explain the process. We say this is what needs to be done. You're going to get it, and this is where you mail it, and give everybody as much information as possible. And that's not political at all.
No,
Just
that's what we're agreeing to do.
I didn't hear that exactly. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. No, we can keep pushing that. We can do it at our meetings. We can do it in our email blasts. We should probably still be pushing the census as well, based upon the numbers that Gail sends out every day. So there's no reason we can't do that. What I was saying about doing something for November is let's find out what's going to happen in November before we start encouraging people to vote by mail.
Are you assuming there might not be an election in November?
Oh, no, there will be an election in November. I've had to explain to people how the Constitution works. All right. I don't have anything else on our agenda. Does anyone want to raise anything else? All right, Bert, then Joe.
I just had a question. Maybe I got lost someplace along the line, but did we have new appointments or has that been postponed?
They are forthcoming.
Which
nothing
means,
has been announced yet. Gail's office is still working on it.
okay, so it's not the normal April 1st date.
No, we're not even close to that.
But we're past it.
I got an email that said May 1st, that we'd be notified by then.
Yeah, I haven't gotten answers from Gail's office on when this is going to be announced yet.
No, I was just asking because I thought maybe I had missed it.
No, that's okay.
I also got that email saying we'll know by the end of the month if we're reappointed or not.
Okay.
So
They also gave the option to bail out if you wanted to,
Funny, I didn't get that one.
Yeah, that's the same one. If you've had second thoughts because of this virus business, you can bail out.
I've had second thoughts, but it's got nothing to do with the virus.
And I said, gee, that's prescient, isn't it? Okay.
Joe?
In the thank you so much to Jesse department, I want to say that Jesse put together a partnership with Clinton Housing and Avenue School, and that in conjunction with the Hudson Guild, who donated all of their food and all of their programs to us. We've gone from serving 0 prepared meals a week to 420 meals a week to all of our supportive housing tenants. Thank you so much, Jesse. It's amazing.
Thank you, Jesse. Are they getting Mama's meatballs, Joe?
They're getting everybody's meatballs.
All right.
Well, we do have a number of folks calling in, I believe. I just want to make sure we give them the option if they
All
have
right.
something to
Anyone on
say.
the phone? Dolores, are you on the phone or you dialed in or no, you're on the video?
I'm Zoomed. I have nothing to say.
Yep.
Thank-
Yeah, no, I saw your
All
name
right.
and I realized that meant you're on Zoom, not on.
Oh, I guess they're off. We did have them. There's one person as a guest, I guess.
Right. And Sarah has sat through all of this. Say hi, Sarah.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Sarah.
There's a masochist for you. She's not even on exec and she wants to be at the exec meetings.
I just want to see everybody. It's so good to see you.
All right. That concludes our meeting for tonight. I hope to see you all tomorrow. That took longer than I had hoped, but I hope you don't feel like it was a complete waste of your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Good to see everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Jesse, I'm going to reach out to Eric about DEP and MTA.
Okay. I don't know who.
Got it. Hold on.
Dolly? Can you hear me? Okay, Dolly?
All right, Jesse.
Are we staying on?
Yeah, we are. Just give me a second.
Okay.
Dolly, we're just moving into a working group session. And so we're going to be removing everybody that's not on the working group. It's just an ongoing conversation. All right. So thank you for attending.
Who is PRGBI?
That's
Bert.
Bert, you don't recognize the face?
PRGBI.
I'm assuming it's BL at the
It's
end.
BL. It's BL. My screen tells me we're still on YouTube.
Yeah, no, hold on one second. Give me a second. I'm just getting everybody. I lost Joe, though. Was that Joe?
No.
Uh-oh.
Let me see if I can text him.
I hope that wasn't Joe for some reason. All right. Yeah, so I'm stopping recording.